Hi, I'm Philip Leppa from APEC Virtual Selling, where we help companies sell more SaaS by leveraging modern virtual selling strategies. In this video, I'll cover how to conduct a great discovery using virtual selling. So what is discovery? Discovery is essentially a conversation that you have early on in your sales cycle with your prospect to qualify them in or out. So to decide whether your SaaS solution is the right one for them and whether they are a prospect that you can potentially convert into a customer, so whether they are worth your time. And in that conversation, you typically gather a lot of useful information that will come in handy later on in the sales cycle if you qualify them in. In my opinion, the ability to conduct an effective discovery is one of those things that separates the awesome salespeople from the, let's say, average ones. I'd like to stress though that this video isn't about the basics of discovery. There's some great resources out there on that. This video specifically is about leveraging virtual selling to conduct a highly effective discovery. Right, so how is discovery different with virtual selling? So I think this boils down to primarily two things. With virtual selling, there are a lot more tools, a lot more technology available for your discovery. And secondly, with the recent shift to virtual selling, prospects' openness and attitude towards doing discovery with tools like video calls, etc., definitely changed. So if you think about it, in the past, prospects would talk to you and have that initial discovery conversation primarily either in person or on the phone, right? So before effectively 2020, if you wanted to get a prospect, again, very initially in the sales cycle where they don't really know you, and maybe perhaps this is an outbound lead, right? So you're very lucky that they're sharing the time with you in the first place. So if you told them, hey, I'm gonna organize a video call, probably they wouldn't be, so keen to jump on it. Again, they would either want to do it in person or on the phone. However, with everything that has happened recently, it's a lot easier to ask to have a discovery call via something like Zoom or your other software. And this is really great news for salespeople. Right, so the first thing to discuss that I've seen a lot more since the shift to virtual selling is that prospects are a lot more open to receiving some kind of survey or something that asks for a bit more of their information after you book the discovery call with them, right? So essentially the idea is that you book the call with them, and then prior to that, you send them some kind of survey where they can give you additional information. Now, the key thing here is you have to make sure that it's professional and that it is easy for the prospect to use that survey, right? The tip here is that you should really try to sell it to them, why they should do it, typically as a time-saving mechanism, right? So tell them that you're gonna be able to cover more, to essentially take that discovery to the next step because they're able to get some preliminary info out of the way in that survey. So I definitely have seen that the prospects are a lot more open to doing that these days. So it's important also that you set the agenda in your invite to the prospect for the discovery that is consistent with that. And again, I'm not gonna go into detail too much about that since that I think is basic discovery 101. All right, so let's get to the actual call. So one of the awesome things that comes with doing discovery on video is that you can leverage multiple screens as you're talking to the customer, right? So this is really big, and I think personally that anybody who is serious about selling in this day and age definitely should be able to leverage multiple screen in their primary working station. So this is awesome because you can do a lot of things with that, right? So as you are talking to the customer, let's say you can just have video and then you can take notes on the other screen. Or what is quite game changing as well compared with doing this in person is you can have a cheat sheet, right? You can have something that you that helps you structure the discovery and helps you make sure you cover everything. And one important thing here though is that as you are leveraging these multiple screens, to make sure to communicate that to the customer so it doesn't look like you're distracted, looking elsewhere as opposed to the camera as you're talking to them. The other thing is you can use that screen sharing function to share some visuals with them, right? Depending on kind of where you are in the conversation with them and depending on your product and your type of prospect, there's definitely more that you can convey by sharing those visuals that you wouldn't be able to do in the past. Visuals or a short demo, again, you have to make sure that it brings value and doesn't distract and doesn't prevent you from asking the right questions. So you don't go too much into the showing mode as opposed to asking the questions, right? Which we know is a very important discovery. So also, what I've done a couple of times in the past that depending on the prospect can be quite effective as well is just as you're taking notes, actually share with them the screen where you are taking the notes. What was very interesting there for me is that oftentimes I would write something down based on how I heard it, and then the prospect would actually correct me saying, no, you got that wrong. This isn't like this. So you can either do that as you are talking to them, or maybe, at the end, share the screen with them. One of the really game-changing things for me as well when it comes to the leveraging virtual selling for discovery is the ability to ask the prospect to record the conversation, right? So again, you have to have a think as to what kind of prospect they are, what industry, and you have to make sure you're comfortable doing that. But I've done this a number of times and it works super well because it's something that I can come back to, make sure I covered everything in detail. And sometimes to the prospect even brings value because they are able to, especially if you answer their question or share some visuals or some information about your offering, then you can share the recording with them. And again, I believe personally, this is quite a game changer. I mean, imagine a couple of years ago, calling the customer and announcing to them that you are going to be recording this call, right? I mean, this just be very awkward, and probably you really wouldn't get far with them as far as sharing information. But for whatever reason, I find that customers are a lot more comfortable if you just ask them during a Zoom call to record it and you briefly communicate if you want the benefit of doing so for them. Right, so after you're finished with your discovery, finished with the conversation rather, with this particular prospect, one of the things I've noticed as well that the prospects are a lot more open since the shift to virtual selling is to afterwards be part of your collaborative space. So whichever technology you use for that, I've seen an increase of customers being open to that. So essentially setting up some kind of space with them to share information, upload files, etc. I've seen a lot more openness to that and engagement in that as opposed to prior to 2020. So I would make sure that I would leverage that in your follow-up, via email, WhatsApp, and actually get probably the buy-in to that on the call itself as well. But that's something that's quite important as well. And again, one of the things that really has changed since the shift to virtual selling, the customers, prospects rather, openness to do that. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any comments or any feedback about doing discoveries and using virtual selling to do so, make sure to leave them. And if you need help with any of this, don't hesitate to get in touch with us.